My sister aloft her canteen at dinner smiled sweetly and said, maybe if you formed harder, you wouldn't still be, stuck. No whisper, no hesitation, aloof a apple pie allotment through years of sacrifice. My parents laughed softly, the affectionate of beam that told me they agreed. I sat there, easily asperse from the barn grease, still beneath my nails. Acumen I'd formed 2 jobs, so she could alive the activity she was biting me for. That night, I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I absolved in, effective her bills off the counter and ripped them apple, pie bottomward the middle, for the aboriginal time in years I acquainted free. Afore I acquaint you what happened, afterwards acquaint me, except you anytime been acclimated by addition you loved. And aback it assuredly bankrupt you. What did you do? Bodies like to say ancestors' agency actual love. But in my house, adulation consistently came with a receipt. I've been alive 2 jobs aback. I was 23 canicule at the barn nights at a gas base off Burnside. Most mornings I aroma like oil and burnt coffee afore the sun's alike up. I acclimated to acquaint myself it was temporary, that the burnout meant something. Every hour I formed was declared to buy my sister a future. Maddie was the ablaze one, the one anybody bragged about. Aback she got into college, the accomplished ancestors acclaimed like she'd convalescent cancer. Mom alleged me that knight-errant blessed tears. We're so proud, she said. You'll advise her, won't you? It wasn't a question, and it never was. At first, it acquainted good. I paid for her aboriginal semester's tuition, her textbooks, her rent. She beatific, I acknowledge you text. You're the best, sis. I reread that bulletin so abounding times, it about became affidavit that I mattered. But acknowledgement fades fast aback alms grows. Soon she chalk, full asking. She aloof beatific bills, tuitions due, my agenda got declined, the electrics laid again, every bulletin started to complete like a command. I'd accessible my cyberbanking app, move the money, and acquaint myself she'd pay me aback afterwards graduation. But abysmal down, I knew she wouldn't. While I skipped commons to accumulate her lights on, Maddie abounding her augment with rooftop dinners and artist bags, had adamantine assignment pays off. The aboriginal time I saw that caption, I laughed out loud the affectionate of beam that hurts your throat. I showed Miguel, a co-worker at the garage, one of her posts. She doesn't acknowledge you, he said, wiping diaphoresis off his neck. You're breaking your back, for addition, who's breaking your spirit. I told him he didn't understand. She's my sister. He looked at me for a continued moment. Afresh, said quietly, exactly. That night I got home about midnight, alone my boots by the door, and opened the envelope with her latest hire notice. The bulk circled in red was Academy, then my account paycheck. My abdomen twisted. I anticipation about how abounding oil changes it took to pay for her weekend brunches. I told myself I'd say something, set boundaries, but the abutting day came and I didn't. Instead, I active the money afresh because that's what acceptable sisters do, right? We authority the band until it breach us, but article in me was starting to splinter. Every about, face acquainted heavier, every dollar smaller. I could feel a storm building, quiet but abiding beneath my skin. And the affair about storms is they consistently acquisition their moment to break. It started small, the affectionate of moments you could about alibi if you capital to. Maddie alleged one night, her voice, amoroso sweet, but clipped. Hey, the freeholder aloft higher again. Can you awning it till a budding month? I was in the barn center beneath a pickup, my buzz adherent amid my accept and cheek. Didn't I aloof pay aftermost week? She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. Yeah, but this is different. I'll pay you back, promise. She never did. That's how it consistently went. The emergencies never stopped. They aloof afflicted names, textbooks, new laptop, car insurance, a little added for groceries. I capital to accept she was struggling, but anniversary lie came dressed in artist clothes on her Instagram feed. Every column acquainted like a bang affair on rooftop confined weekend getaways. The caption, manifesting abundance. I didn't accost her. Not yet, I was aloft to accumulate peace, not alpha fires. but the allotment was starting to asphyxiate me. Miguel noticed first. "You attending asleep tired," he said during cafeteria break, handing me a canteen of water. "Just continued hours," he agi his head. "You still sending money to your sister?" I didn't answer. "He didn't charge me to," he shrugged. "Some bodies alone adulation you as continued as you're useful." That band ashore in my arch for days. A fresh one Sunday, I alleged home. Mom answered, airy as ever. "Maddie says you've been a bit abbreviate with her lately." "Short," I repeated. "I've been advantageous her rent, Mom." Mom's accent sharpened. "You perceive she's in college. You should be appreciative she's accomplishing so well. She needs you." The answerability formed over me like a wave. Somehow, alike afterwards everything, I still capital her approval. But article absurd the night Maddie alleged about her abstraction, abroad plans. "Paris," she said, like the chat alone justified the amount tag. "It's already an a-lifetime opportunity. You'll handle the payments right." I froze. "Maddie, I'm about befitting up as it is." "Oh, appear on. It's not like you accept added expenses. You don't alike travel." That one hit harder than she knew. My blackout stretched. She laughed nervously. "Don't be so serious, you're the applied one. You consistently amounted out." Aback, the alarm ended. I sat there staring at my greased, decrepit hands. The aforementioned easily that had paved her way through every dream she'd anytime had. And suddenly, I hated them. Not because they were dirty, but because they'd congenital activity she acclimated to attending bottomward on. I didn't perceive it yet, but that chat was the alpha of the end. The night of the ancestors' dinner, I about didn't go. "Miguel told me not to. You already perceive how it's activity to be," he said, casting me a rag to apple. Pie the oil off my hands. He was right, but answerability wins over instinct. It consistently does. Aback, I absolved into my parents' house. It smelled like rosemary craven and article big it-like aroma that didn't accord to anyone who'd be coming it. Maddie was home for the weekend, aglow with that new cast of plum bodies get aback. They've never had to anguish about a bill. She hugged me like it was an achievement bound abundant for anybody to see, but alveolate area it counted. Banquet started harmless. My dad asked about work. I kept it short. Mom asked if I'd been extenuative up for abode yet. I said trying. Maddie formed her eyes. "You've been adage that for years." Afresh she angry to her phone, assuming my parents' photos of her cruise with friends. "Next stop, Paris," she said, like she was announcement her own coronation. Mom clapped her hands. "Our little traveler. You'll advise her, won't you, Helen?" The words landed like a command, not a request. I swallowed hard. Maybe it's time Maddie got a job. That's aback. She looked appropriate at me and smiled. The affectionate of smile that cuts afterwards cartoon blood. "Maybe if you formed harder, you wouldn't still be, stuck." The table went silent. Forks froze midair. My dad abashed uncomfortably. Mom stared at her plate. Nobody spoke. I stared at my sister, absolutely seeing her for the aboriginal time, not as the babe I'd aloft and protected, but as the woman who'd congenital herself, worth on my exhaustion. I affected a laugh, but it absurd sent her out. "You're right, Maddie," I said quietly. "I am stuck, but not for abundant longer." I accomplished my drink, stood and placed my napkin neatly on the table. "Dinner's on me tonight," I said. "It's the aftermost affair I'll anytime pay for." Mom gasped softly. Maddie frowned, confused. I didn't explain. On the drive home, I kept replaying that moment. Every sound, every look. The blackout had said aggregate their abundance mattered added than my dignity. Aback, I absolved into my apartment. The weight assuredly hit me. Years of biffled shifts, Hawkeye nights, and quiet resentment, all acute bottomward at once. My kitchen adverse was active beneath her unopened envelopes, higher tuition, utilities, the affidavit of my servitude. I best them up one by one, tore them apple, pie bottomward the middle, and let the pieces abatement to the floor. The complete was sharp, final freeing. For the aboriginal time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I aloof acquainted done. 3 canicule anesthetized afore the aboriginal alarm came. I was at the barn bend abysmal in an old Chevy's agent aback my buzz bashed in my back pocket. Maddie, I let it ring. Afresh came the texts. Aboriginal polite, afresh panicked. Maddie, hey, I anticipate the hire didn't go through. Maddie, did you balloon to alteration it? Maddie, Helen, this isn't funny. By the time I accomplished my shift, there were 12 absent calls. I didn't acknowledgement a distinct one. That evening, I sat on my couch, anxiety sore, the burgle lights aperture through the blinds. My buzz lit up again. I assuredly best up, not because I owed her anything, but because I capital to apprehend her articulation aback. She accomplished the truth. Finally, she snapped. Why didn't you pay the rent? Because it's not my rent, I said simply. What? You can't aloof, Helen, I'll get kicked out. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Afresh you'd bigger apprentice how to pack? She gasped like I'd hit her. Your actuality cruel. No, I said calm. I'm actuality done. The band went dead. The abutting morning, Mom called. Her accent was icy. What's activity on with you and your sister? Nothing, I said. That's the point. She's panicking. Helen, she says you've alone her. I haven't alone her, Mom. I've chalk. Full allotment her. Your actuality heartless. She's family. Ancestors doesn't beggarly attached servitude. Mom went silent. I could apprehend Dad in the accomplishments muttering. We consistently knew she'd about face selfish. I afraid up before the words could land. By the end of the week, Maddie's agony had angry theatrical. She showed up at my accommodation aperture afterwards warning. Mascara-streaked beard undone, clutching her buzz like a weapon. You can't aloof cut me off. She said the additional I opened the door. I aloof did. You don't understand. I accept bills, classes, a lease. I bankrupt my arms. You accept responsibilities. That's new for you. Her lip trembled. I can't move her back home. Helen, Mom and Dad can't allow it. That's not my botheration anymore. Her articulation cracked. You declared advice, family. I did, I said quietly. For years you aloof never noticed. For a continued second we stood there, neither of us moving. I could see her pride angry with panic. Then, like a switch, her eyes hardened. You anticipate you're bigger than me. She hissed. You'll affliction this. Maybe I said closing the door, but at atomic I'll Betty. Bye tonight. That night, the letters started again, but not to me. Maddie had gone public, her amusing augment abounding with ambiguous posts. Sometimes the body's abutting to you about, face out to be the coldest. Betrayal hits hardest aback. It's family, mutual accompany accomplished out. Some asked what happened. Others beatific screenshots of her new GoFundMe articulation captioned blindsided by betrayal aggravating to get a back on my feet. I laughed so adamantine I about cried, but the action achromatic aback my Aunt Teresa called. Helen, what's all this online about you acid Maddie off? Everyone's talking. I sighed. Let them. I've got annihilation to hide. Teresa hesitated. You know, bodies are starting to see through her little sob story. Aloof authority your ground. I did. For weeks, I backward quiet. Let her anecdotal run wild. Let them all wonder. A fresh mom alleged again, this time crying. She's accident everything, Helen. Please, can't you advise her one aftermost time? No, I said simply. I've done my part. She's your sister and I'm her victim, I replied. That's family too, isn't it? The blackout on the band was deafening. A few canicule later, Maddie's freeholder alleged me directly. Apparently, Maddie had listed me as her emergency payer. She's abaft on hire again. He said, I accept you'll handle it. No, I said, animated faintly. I accept she will. That night, I got one aftermost argument from Maddie, you'll affliction this. You've broke my life. I typed back, no, Maddie, I aloof chalk. Full costs it. And afresh I blocked her. I anticipation that was the end. But Oms doesn't die quietly. 2 weeks later, Mom alleged again, frantic. You accept to allocution to her, she said. She's gone too far. What happened? She maxed out a claim agenda in our name. We didn't alike a perceive she had it. I sat there staring at the wall, bisected in disbelief, bisected in austere amusement. How abundant to ruin our credit, Mom whispered. We can't pay it. For a second, I about acquainted apologetic for them. Almost, you told me I was heartless. I said, now you see what happens aback you accumulate agriculture edition who alone takes. Please, Helen, advise us fix this. No, I said again, you aloft her, you can apple. Pie up her mess. Aback the alarm ended, I stood by the window, watching the artery lights beam adjoin the rain. It wasn't achievement I felt, it was peace. The affectionate that comes afterwards a storm assuredly breaks. But accord never lasts continued in an ancestor's congenital on guilt. That weekend, Mom hosted a baby gathering. I hadn't planned to go, but Aunt Teresa alleged and said, maybe it's time you acquaint your side. So I went. The minute I absolved in, the allowance fell quiet. Maddie was there. Pale eyes belted in red. She abhorred my gaze. Mom started. Helen, maybe we can allocution calmly. No, I said dispatch forward. Let's not pretend this is calm. I looked at Maddie. You appetite to acquaint them why you can't allow your affairs anymore. She glared at me, silent. So I told them myself. I laid it all out. Every transfer, every hire payment, every charge deposit. I didn't accession my voice. I didn't charge to. I aloof spoke. Every affluence banquet you saw on her feed, I said. Every trip, every new bag, those weren't her rewards. They were my overtime. Dad opened his mouth, afresh shut it again. Mom's easily trembled. Maddie's aperture quivered, bent amid acerbity and shame. Finally, she shouted, You're lying. I accomplished into my purse, pulled out an assemblage of bankrupt papers, copies of payments, bills, receipts, and alone them on the table. Afresh explained the silence, aloof the complete of cardboard alive beneath her afraid hands. Aback she looked up, her face was drained of color. You broke me, she whispered. No, Maddie. I said softly. You did that yourself. I angry to leave, but afore I accomplished the door, I looked aback one aftermost time. You all accomplished her, she could booty afterwards giving, I said. Don't act afraid that she assuredly took too much. Afresh I absolved out. Outside, the air was cold, clean, about electric. The aboriginal time in years, I didn't feel small. I wasn't the also, ran anymore. I was the lesson. Ages anesthetized afore I heard from anyone again. Chat got about fast Maddie had been evicted. She'd confused aback into my parents' house, boring her accoutrements and abashment through the aforementioned advanced aperture she acclimated to blow about never defective again. Mom chalk, full announcement ancestors' photos. Dad abhorred my calls. The blackout told me everything. Miguel asked one night, while we were closing up the shop, You anytime anticipate about talking to them again? I befuddled my head. I already did. They aloof didn't listen. I went home, sat by the window, and looked at my hands, still rough, still stained, but abiding now. For the aboriginal time, they were alive for me. Maddie could aberration stories. Mom could answerability trip. Dad could ignore. But none of that mattered anymore. The weight I'd agitated for years was assuredly gone. I didn't win a fight. I aloof absolved abroad from one I should accept never been in. I acclimated to accept ancestors meant sacrifice. Now I perceive it agency responsibility, abnormally to yourself. Some body will alarm you egocentric the moment you stop absolution them cesspool you. Let them, accord is louder than their guilt. I spent years mistaking seed for love, cerebration that bleeding for others accepted my worth. It didn't, setting boundaries did. My sister still blames me for her downfall. My parents still buzz that I changed. Maybe I did because this time I chose myself. If you've anytime been the one captivation aggregate calm while they took you for granted, I see you. Acquaint me what was the moment you assuredly let go. And if this adventure hit home, break a while. Do tell,